Michael, thank you very much for agreeing to take part in this series of interviews.
Well, thank you and good morning. I'm Mike Mestan, and I'm a second generation chiropractor who's married to a second generation chiropractor. So I've been around chiropractic my entire life. With that, I went to college originally as a science major. I had not decided to go into chiropractic when I was in undergraduate. But it did change my mind. And as I went to chiropractic college, I fell in love with radiology. So I did a diagnostic imaging residency at Los Angeles College of Chiropractic at the time. And then I went to practice with my father. And then with that, I wanted to get back into academia. So I took a job at what is now called Parker University. I ran their radiology department in residency for almost 4 years. I had an opportunity to come to New York, closer to my wife's family. And I've been here about 18 plus years. Started out as a department head, worked up to dean, then vice president, then provost, and then now I'm president. With that, I also went back to school since I've been at New York Chiropractic College. I got a master's and a doctorate of education in higher education with a specialty in administration. And I had that degree now for about 7 years. So with that, as I mentioned, I've been in the profession for almost my entire life, and all the way from the ground up, from cleaning my dad's office all the way then as I got older and became educated to working in his office, and then now working on the educational side.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. That's a pretty good CV, and it equips you pretty well to answer the questions that we'd like you to look at. So the first question really is a very broad question. Is what do you think makes a good chiropractor?
Well, I think that is a very good question. And for me, in my experience, I believe that people who have an inherent desire to help others is a key ingredient. And then with that, I think ultimately they need to have the appropriate education to become a chiropractor. And then with that, they have to have a certain amount of tenacity. I think especially in the United States, I can speak to that. You know, there still is some negativity about the profession from a public perspective. So you have to have a little bit thick skin. In addition to that, you have to have, in addition to excellent clinical skills, I think you need to have a good business perspective. But you know what I've seen is that people who are tend to be have a deep passion to help others, be advocates for their patients and advocates for the profession, and have an entrepreneurial spirit are the ones generally who are most satisfied in practice. Because I think that success is going to be defined by each individual. But those are the key elements that I see as people come in that generally are most satisfied as they become practitioners.
And I suppose that comment about the thick skin also relates to confidence. If you understand properly what you're doing and you're passionate about it, it's quite easy to deal with potential criticism that might come at you. Whereas if you're not, and therefore, and if you're not confident, you find yourself getting undermined by that criticism. And so from the point of view of education, it's about instilling that confidence and that understanding so that they can be confident advocates for the profession.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, you know, that really comes in, you know, I see there's some other elements of this later on in the questions, but, you know, being able to work well with other professionals and integrating and collaborating, that's very key. And if you don't have that confidence and you don't show that confidence in everything that you do, then when you do get questioned on that and you respond or behave in such a way that is outside the norm or outside of best practices, then you get additional criticism. Yes.
Yeah. Well, going on to the next section of the interview, we look at what the future holds for chiropractic education. And as I've explained to you earlier, we in England or in Britain and in Europe generally, the public university sector is the area that we feel is probably the place we need to start working on building new courses. In America, you have a tradition for private and solely chiropractic colleges. I know that many of them have other programs tacked on, but they're chiropractic colleges. And you talked about the fact that maybe one state-funded one starting quite soon. What do you think the future holds? Do you think it's something which might happen in the States as well? Or do you think there won't be any more colleges in the States? Or, I mean, where do you think it's going to go, both in the USA and internationally?
I agree with you. I think that the future of the educational component of chiropractic is going to find a home in state subsidized colleges and universities. I mean, we've already seen the trend here in the United States, and it's really starting to explode. It's really become, way back, if you look at the history of chiropractic in the United States, especially chiropractic education, there was an explosion of a bunch of mom and pop sort of chiropractic colleges and programs, and they eventually coalesced, all went out of business, merged, and then there was just a few 12, 14, 16 programs in the United States. And so with that consolidation, now we're starting to see just the opposite again. But now it's done more in a strength-based fashion, more than what it used to be was a for-profit perspective. Now it's really going to be having more legitimacy, if you will, from having vetted inside a state-run university where you're able to collaborate with other professions. And you're also able to have faculty members that teach basic sciences for multiple programs that also teach, those for chiropractic. So what we've seen in the United States here in the last couple of schools that have opened up have been right now they've been in private colleges and universities, but we are starting to see them open up. And it's very difficult for a standalone chiropractic college to compete with those settings because those programs tend to be smaller. They tend to take in about 30 students in a cohort. So that's usually about anywhere from 100 to 200 students total enrollment. And because it's already embedded into a larger university setting, the cost of the program really is significantly less because you don't have all the indirect costs that you have at a standalone school. And also that regionally, those schools, because I think that they're going to be better quality just inherently because of the faculty and that three-pronged approach that you talk about. While we try to have that in the standalone chiropractic colleges, it's also very expensive to do that because of the infrastructure to do that. I think that we're going to start seeing more of a decentralization in the United States from chiropractic education as we move along, and that's going to be in the state-funded colleges and universities.
And do you see that as a good thing, or do you see that as a bit of a challenge?
Well, as basically as a standalone private chiropractic college, I view that as something that is certainly is a threat to how we do business, but also I see it as a positive disruption within the profession.
Yeah, good. Okay, that's very good. So looking at your college, your institution, what do you think is the standout thing that you excel at? And I'd also like to, if this isn't the standout thing that you excel at, what I'd like to do is also listen a bit to what you think about your graduate entry program, because I think that opens up a huge area for recruitment to the profession of some very competent and capable individuals.
So maybe I just want to make sure we're on the same page about the graduate education program. I mean, from what my understanding is, in the UK and whatnot, as you mentioned, is that something that you just go right from undergraduate into the chiropractic program, or right from high school into graduate program? Because when I refer to ourselves as a graduate program, we are, meaning that you need to have all the undergraduate stuff first. Is that what you're referring to as a graduate program?
In this country, you can go in as an undergraduate. So it's like a university program. So you finish A-levels at the age of 18. You go into a chiropractic program for 4 or 5 years, depending. The first 3 being the, if you like, the basic sciences, preclinical stuff. and then the last bit being the master's element, which is the clinical program, which takes you to. But what the graduate programs in the UK were people who might have a physiology degree, or they might have a degree in biomedicine, or one other health-related degree, and then they might come to chiropractic, and then they simply do the latter part of the program, perhaps 2 or at the most 3 years.
Oh, that's very interesting. So just in the United States, graduate programs for chiropractic means that you have met all the CCE requirements for entry into the program, and we're considered a graduate school. But everyone goes the same amount no matter what you have beforehand.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Across the board. So that because when you first mentioned that, I'm like, I'm not sure that's exactly how it's defined here in the United States, but I do understand that model where then you can get a bachelor's in chiropractic and then a master's and then the doctorate of chiropractic, that sort of thing. Is that what you're referring to?
And I wonder if there's a mechanism for people to join that program partway through. But by the sound of things, that probably isn't the case in the States.
No, you can have a PhD in kinesiology, and when you go through the chiropractic program, there may be some stuff that you can transfer out, but it's still going to take you 10 trimesters.
Yeah. Okay, well, so let's go back to your institution.
Okay.
What do you think are the things that make your institution stand out from the crowd?
Well, I think something that we do very well at is integration with other professions and collaborative work. We have, and this is found primarily in our clinical setting, we have a lot of academic affiliations with Veterans Administration hospitals. We also have a couple residency programs here on campus. We work with a VA hospital here nearby and created a pilot for a chiropractic residency at the VA facility. And after 2 years, the federal government did pick that up, and it's now funded, and there's 10 slots in the United States. And that's something that we're instrumental in, and we have 2 chiropractic VA residencies of the 10 that we have an affiliation with. But in addition to that, we have close to 20 academic affiliations with the VA administration hospitals where our students rotate through, either at a short-term or a long-term basis. And so what I think we all, that is a very important part of what we do good, because it's the foundation of our philosophy of volume and variety for our clinical experience. Oftentimes, in my pathway through various chiropractic colleges, I've seen that, the students oftentimes treat only a very specific slice of the population. And with that, I think that that is skimps on the experience that is required. So with that, the volume and variety is very important. I think that there's an appropriate volume. You can't, I see also, and some people want to have a high volume practice, but I think education suffers in that realm. And then the variety, it's all the way from, your veterans who tend to be, the older population with a lot of comorbidities. And then also all the way through our outpatient clinics that we operate and run, which tend to be more of your middle-aged type of or family practice. We also do provide indigent care. We also do care in other nursing home facilities and that sort of thing. So there's a whole spectrum of that range. And with that, so those students, when they go on those rotations, they also get to see what other practitioners and other professionals are doing. So they have that confidence that we talked about earlier on, and that competence of having the conversation of talking on a peer level with these other professionals. One thing we've also found, especially in a VA hospital, is that in the United States, almost every healthcare profession that is licensed has some sort of training in the VA hospital. So when our students are there as peers with those other students, they get to collaborate. And they remember that experience when they go on to become professionals. And generally, it's positive. We also provide care in state-run university health centers for the students. So in the state of New York, we provide chiropractic care for the students at university at Stony Brook, also a couple other big universities downstate and also upstate here. So our students are providing care to these students. They're not even they're just undergraduate students and they're not going to be chiropractors, but they remember that exposure with that chiropractic student, and that generally also has a very positive thing in demonstrating the competency, if you will, of the chiropractic care as part of the spectrum of care that the students may receive. So, I also think that what we do very well here, we are on an excellence journey. We try to provide the very best, the academic aspects. Our philosophy here is, in chiropractic, that's a double-edged sword when you say philosophy, because apparently chiropractic profession seems to think that they have their own philosophy of something like chiropractic healing paradigms, which we basically here at the institution, our philosophy is patient-centered and evidence-based. And I think if you are being patient-centered, which I think we do very well in exposing our students to what that concept is, of being their advocate and an advocate for the profession in a most competent sort of way. And that's something that's threaded throughout the whole curriculum.
Well, this evidence-based thing is very important as well. I think if we're going to have credibility with the other healthcare professions, we've got to evidence the fact that we know what we're doing with that sort of thing. So that again takes us back into that research area that we were talking a bit about. So when you're looking at new students coming into the profession, what do you think are the best recruiting tools? Obviously, if somebody's been treated by a chiropractor and think it's the best thing that's ever happened to them, that's a pretty good recruiting tool. But what are the other recruiting tools that you think are useful, both with regard to increasing the numbers of students, but also diversity? Because this profession is not necessarily that. Gender diversity is quite good in the chiropractic profession, but we are still predominantly a white middle-class profession, I think.
That's a very good question, and I think to a certain context, it could go back to the first question you asked. What makes a good chiropractor? And if you use those as a metric, then you would obviously try to find out how you would be able to connect with those people that have those traits. But the thing that I get hung up on in the question is, what are the best tools for recruitment? Now, I've learned now as an administrator, many different things. So I think if you would have asked me several years ago, I would have given you a different answer. And it would have been more about, what their academic background was in kinesiology or whatever undergraduate studies they had that led them to chiropractic. But for recruiting, that's a whole other world into itself. And I've learned now, we've gone through some significant changes in our recruitment. And in particular, we've created a strategic enrollment management plan. And there is a lot of technological advances now that you use for recruitment. And it's not just for chiropractic, it's for basically anything. But, everything now is so software driven and whatnot. We use a CRM or a computer or customer relations management software system in which people are put into that system, and it tracks every type of communication that we've had with them. I can tell you just really generally in my experience in the recruitment aspect for chiropractic programs is I look at it as kind of almost on a chemistry model or a physical chemistry model where you have all these free electrons that are out here and you're trying to attract them into your funnel. And you have an active pool, people who are somewhat interested in the program. And your job initially is to get as many people that you can possibly have that are interested in the program. And then your job ultimately is to convert them into students. And that conversion sometimes is very difficult because you can spend a lot of money on developing an active pool. And what we found, the Association of Chiropractic Colleges hired a marketing firm to increase the interest of undergraduate students as chiropractic as a profession. And we all saw that our active pool went up, but it didn't necessarily significantly change the conversion ratio of converting those people who were somewhat interested to actually students. So with that being said, I think that having a evidence-based recruitment plan or strategic enrollment management plan is essential. I also think that getting out and in the United States, having connections with health profession advisors, people who actually advise students about career options for them. I also think that having academic affiliations with other area schools is absolutely essential, because the other thing is that from a competitive basis, you could have colleges that are your competitors and they have affiliations with your area schools, and students in that going to that school may not even know of you, but they know of a school that's 1,000 miles away. So it really is important to have a plan. And I think that, once again, linking those types of people who have those traits that make a good chiropractor, you want to make sure that they know about you. It's really about, having that ability for them to know about you and a pathway in which they can go to school. Now, we have 3+1 agreements and a variety of other agreements. I don't know how that may work in England, but that's where the students can do 3 years of undergraduate, and then they leave 1 year early, and then they do the basic sciences at our school, and then that other school gives them a bachelor's degree because they use those credits towards their undergraduate degree. Now, they still do the 10 trimesters with us, but it's good for the undergraduate school because they have placements that the government requires them to track. In addition to that, it saves a student a year's worth of tuition at the other institution, and everyone wins with that sort of thing. So those sorts of agreements are really important, and I think that people nowadays are looking for those types of arrangements more and more.
Well, flexibility is very important, isn't it? So what if you compare it to other healthcare professions like medicine or physiotherapy or dentistry? The entry requirement for a chiropractic program, is it much the same, or is it? Because that's one of the things that's happened in medicine, is that the entry requirements in the UK has gone up and up and up and up. So you've got very bright students coming in that may not be necessarily the best clinicians. Obviously, you need bright people for the academic world, but just by increasing the bar that they have to jump over to get into the program doesn't necessarily make for the best cohort of students from all sorts of points of view.
No, I agree with you. And also here in the United States, that has been a problem because of just what you said. I mean, these people could be super smart, but they have terrible bedside manner, so to speak, and a variety of other things. They're more of an academician than they are as a clinician. And this is not really as happened in chiropractic as much as in medicine, but because there is such a demand, because of the demand in some of these other professions, they build classes. And unfortunately in chiropractic, and this is a true statement, is, we fill classes. And so with that, in the United States right now, the accreditation does not have limitations on how many students each college is allowed to take. Whereas in medicine and PT and all those PAs, almost all the other healthcare professions, except for acupuncture maybe, they have accreditation limits on your enrollments. And so with that, there is a ceiling. So it creates a demand, and it's a healthy interplay. So with that, they have the opportunity to build classes. And with that, then they can make selections on gender, ethnic backgrounds, and all that to fulfill that cohort that would be balanced out. And that's something that we have been in chiropractic very unsuccessful in doing.
So that actually is a very, very good lead into the next question, which is, where do you think the profession will be in 10 years' time, or 15 or 20? And if you had any opportunity to influence the direction of travel, what would your best advice be to us as a profession?
Well, many of the elements that we have been discussing here in this conversation, I do believe that those are the foundation of the pathway for the next 10, 15 years. I do think that as the educational process matures, so that we are able to build classes and we are integrated into larger university systems. I think that tends to be a very positive thing. And really, at the end of the day, those things ultimately are going to be driving the quality of care. I mean, we have to think about what the end product is, and I think that and to me, the end product is chiropractic as a fully integrated health profession delivery item that's fully complementary and integrated with all the other professions. So I think that it's going to be, a residency may be a very important aspect of that, at least a year residency. I think that if we use podiatry as a model, that may be something. I think our students graduate now that are competent, but I think that it would be much better if there was a system in which there was a compulsory residency that was about a year long, and they would be paid for that. And there are some preliminary models that may suggest that could occur. Whether or not it's going to be embraced, I don't know. But I do think that from an educational perspective, the more orthodox the educational system is with other healthcare professions and the accreditation, I think that's going to be a key element in the next 10 to 15 years. As far as the profession, the integration is going to be a key element. So.
Do you think the profession is ready for that? Do you think the profession will accept that? Do you think that your colleagues, certainly in the United States, are up for that, this integration, this collaboration?
Well, I've been in the profession long enough now that I've become increasingly cynical. So with that, I've never really. I know that professions can be diverse, have a lot of diverse opinions and a variety of different things of that nature. But it always seems that at the end of the day, they come back together so that they're still somewhat united in their voice. Especially in the United States, I really have not seen such a large group of individuals that really are so polar. And I've also noticed that if you have a group of chiropractors that exceeds a certain number, let's say 10, they'll split off and have two groups of 5. I mean, it's just silly. It's like inherent. It's like in our DNA or something. But I know that there will certainly be opposition to that. And with it, where it's going to really come down to is the market forces and what the public and what the government entities identify with. That's going to be the largest player in that. And it may come to be that there's enough forces, opposing forces, that creates a schism in that. And then maybe there's another group of the profession that goes off and they want to be, wellness advocates or something. And the other group, they want to be actually, they want to have a seat at the table of delivering, healthcare. So.
I wonder if it's a little bit like the chiropractic profession is still an adolescent. And maybe as we grow up a little bit, we'll start to feel that we mature and see the benefit of having a single goal and identity. And maybe other professions have experienced the same sort of thing and then have grown through it. And so do you think we might grow through it? Or do you think this is, as you say, in our DNA that we'll constantly do this fracturing?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was a bit of a floater for you. Anyway, are there any other things that you would like to discuss that either from your experience or things that you have observed going on elsewhere that you might think might be interesting for the audience?
No, I applaud your efforts. I appreciate you reaching out. I wish you the very best. I certainly offer myself up if there's anything that you need from me. I wish you the very best in your efforts. It sounds like you're certainly on the right track. So make myself available.
Thank you very much indeed for giving us your time this morning.